Americans in the military have been asked to make extraordinary sacrifices in recent years, particularly in Iraq, where the casualties are mounting, tours of duty are being extended, and some of them have had enough. Tonight you'll hear dissension in the ranks from a large group of soldiers and Marines who are fed up and have decided to go public. They're not going AWOL, they're not disobeying orders, or even refusing to fight in Iraq. But as correspondent Lara Logan reports, they're doing something unthinkable to many in uniform, bypassing the chain of command to denounce a war they're in the middle of fighting.
As a patriotic citizen who served 2 combat tours in Iraq, I just feel that this war, it's simply just not working out anymore, and soldiers are dying there every day.
Specialist Kevin Torres didn't always feel that way. He enlisted in the Army right out of high school after 9/11. He's twice served in Iraq, patrolling the mainly Kurdish north of the country, carrying out combat patrols.
All right, Roger.
And goodwill missions.
Here you go, buddy.
I joined because I just wanted to make a difference. I wanted to be a part of our generation's war.
Well, you've been on 2 deployments, and you didn't always feel this way. Was there a point at which, something you experienced that made you think?
Yeah, in January, we were doing a routine presence patrol through the city of Fallujah, and one of our trucks was hit by a roadside bomb, an IED, and it killed 4 of the soldiers out of the 5 that were in the truck. And during the recovery of the fallen soldiers, all the debris outside of the truck, and we just had, the truck was loaded with school supplies, and soccer balls, and crayons, and notebooks, and coloring books. We just want to help. And it was just a really eye-opening and frustrating experience because we're still getting killed out there.
It's a sentiment echoed by all of the service members who are part of this protest. We gathered some of them in Washington, but they had to be off base, out of uniform, and off duty to speak to us on camera. They've all sent a petition called Appeal for Redress to their individual members of Congress, letting them know that staying in Iraq will not work, and it's time for U.S. troops to come home.
It's not about speaking out against the military or speaking out against the war. It's just we're here 4 years down the line and there's not an end to it.
What are we trying to accomplish over there? What are we trying to do in Iraq?
What do you think?
I don't even know anymore.
Well, what would you say to the people that say, all right, it's clear that the war in Iraq is incredibly difficult and life is really tough, both for Americans and for Iraqis, but pulling out's not the answer. It's only going to get worse. There's going to be all-out civil war.
How does that become the default? Either someday we have to leave. We can't stay in Iraq for the next 1,000 years.
Is there a possibility that Iraq might be better off if American troops stay there and finish the job?
But then our lives are hanging in the balance of a flip of a coin.
That doesn't seem worth it to you. Those are not good odds.
Yes, I mean, we volunteered to make a difference, not just be part of an experiment.
The idea for this protest by active duty and reserve service members came from 2 enlisted men who served in the war. Marine Sergeant Liam Madden, who got to Iraq during the Battle of Fallujah and whose military commitment is up this winter. And Naval Petty Officer Jonathan Hutto, who serves on the USS Theodore Roosevelt, which was deployed in the Gulf during Operation Iraqi Freedom.
I'm not anti-war. I'm not a pacifist. I'm not opposed to protecting our country and defending our principles. But at the same time, as citizens, it's our obligation to have a questioning attitude, about policy.
Just because we volunteered for the military doesn't mean we volunteered to put our lives in unnecessary harm and to carry out missions that are illogical and immoral.
They say they're permitted to express their opinions because of the 1995 Military Whistleblower Act. Although it prohibits them from speaking against the commander-in-chief or any of their superior officers, it does allow members of the armed forces to speak on their own behalf and to make a protected communication to Congress.
A senior officer in the Marine Corps said to me when I asked him about the appeal, what was his opinion, and he served in both Iraq wars. He said, I have a hard enough time getting young men to put themselves in harm's way without having to have men in uniform tell them it's not worth it.
We're not telling young men and women that it's not worth it to serve their country. We've served our country. The men and women who have signed the appeal have served their country. So no, we're not saying it's not worth it. We're saying that if you have reservations about it, to communicate it. That's simply what it is.
There are going to be a lot of people who don't like what you're doing.
By volunteering, we've done more than about 99% of the population. And anybody who joined after 9/11 when the country was at a state of war, it's my opinion that nobody has the right to question that soldier's patriotism. Nobody.
There are going to be a lot of people listening to this who say that you're a traitor, you're betraying your uniform, you don't deserve to wear it.
I hope there aren't people that think that.
For Lieutenant Commander Mark Dearden, going public has been one of the hardest decisions of his life. He's a combat surgeon who served during Operation Iraqi Freedom, returned for a second tour, and now treats soldiers at a naval hospital in California.
The decision to come here, for me personally, was not an easy one, and I don't expect it was for anyone. Last night I was with my family in the park in our town, and it hit me that at this very moment, while I'm standing here, people are fighting and people are dying. I've seen it with my own eyes, and I can feel it in my chest.
This is very hard for you.
It is.
When I listen to you, it makes me feel like this isn't so much a protest as a plea.
I think that's right.
According to a recent Military Times survey, many in uniform feel the same way. The poll found that for the first time ever, more U.S. soldiers oppose the president's handling of the war in Iraq than support it. Still, critics claim the group is partisan, just out to boost Democrats who oppose the war.
I'm certainly not liberal, and I doubt many of the members on this panel are liberal. It's not funded by any partisan organization. It's soldiers, it's service members, it's grassroots, it's us.
White House spokesman Tony Snow has dismissed the protesters as an insignificant minority.
It's not unusual for soldiers in a time of war to have some misgivings. You have several 100,000 who have served in Iraq. You have re-enlistment rates that have exceeded goals in all the military.
And then he goes on to say that it's unfortunate that people like you, and the quote is, going to be able to get more press than the hundreds of thousands who have come back and said they are proud of their service.
You got two right here who are going to do multiple tours in Iraq, and I'm re-enlisting. I never said I wasn't proud of my service. I fit some of those statistics right there myself.
For many in uniform, there's an unwritten code of honor that says no matter how tough your situation is, or whatever your private doubts about the mission may be, you just never speak out publicly against it. And so for them, what the service members of this campaign are doing is nothing short of a betrayal.
That's not something that I would do personally.
We spoke with soldiers from the 1st Cavalry who are currently serving in Baghdad. They acknowledged that the servicemen and women who signed the petition have the right to do so, but that doesn't mean they should.
I think every American soldier throughout history has wanted combat to stop.
As an American soldier, I feel like, we took an oath to obey the orders of our commander-in-chief and the officers appointed over us.
The war has been very difficult. The violence, has not decreased at all. If anything, it's got worse. Is there a part of you that sort of says, yeah, I understand why someone feels like this?
I know what I'm here fighting for, to give the Iraqi people, some democracy and hope. So I am 100% behind this mission. You don't sign up to pick which war you get to go to.
What would you say to that?
We haven't said that we're not going to war. By the time this airs, I'll be back in Iraq.
We don't get to choose the mission. Our leadership gets to choose the mission. Congress gets to choose the mission. My congressman is Lacey Clay. I would like to tell him, as a constituent of his, is this it?
What do you mean, is this it?
Is the mission in Iraq really what you want us to be doing? And then he responds, yes. Okay, well, we go back to Iraq and we keep doing what we're doing.
We volunteered to make a difference, not just throw our lives away.
Sergeant Ron Cantu served in the Army before 9/11, and he re-enlisted after the terrorist attacks. He was in Iraq in 2004 and was headed back when we interviewed him. Although he says he will follow whatever orders he's given, he personally feels this war is no longer worth fighting.
You're a third-generation military man in your family.
The third generation to have served, the first who made a decision to make the military a career.
So you want this to be a career, but
Oh, yeah.
is this not career suicide in that case?
Only time will tell.
You're going back. Are you worried about what the consequences are going to be for you back there when people know how you feel?
All I can do is just convey to those soldiers that I do not want them to die in Iraq, and that I will do everything I can to bring them home safe.
Once you're in that combat zone, and once those bullets start flying, it's all those politics are out the window. It's not about foreign policy or what anybody says. It's about the man to your left and to your right. And now you're just out there defending each other.
And nothing changes that.
No, nothing will ever change that.
Despite the fact that polls show the majority of the American public has turned against the war in Iraq, support for the troops remains high, even for soldiers like Specialist Torres, whose 101st Airborne was recently welcomed home with a parade near their home base at Fort Campbell.
What did that mean to you when you got back and saw that?
It's just, when you're in Iraq, you're worried that you're sort of forgotten. The only people that are really concerned with the war in Iraq are people who have family members or loved ones in Iraq. And when you come home and you see a town welcome you and, you know, set up a parade, it's comforting.
What would you say to your children 30 years from now about the war you fought?
That I was just doing what my country asked me to do, and I did it well.